A man came back home to his wife after a long business journey. After a happy reunion, their parrot suddenly started talking out of nowhere. "Yes, put it in that hole," it squawked loudly with a female voice. "What the hell?" said the man. "Where did the parrot learn that?" "No, it's not what you think," said his wife. "You see, there was a hole in the kitchen wall, so I called a guy over to get it fixed. He had a bucket of spackling paste with him, and when he arrived and asked, 'Is this the hole you want fixed, ma'am?' I replied with 'Yes, put it in that hole,' referring to the paste and the hole in the wall." The tension seemed to be over, but then the parrot started talking again. "Get ready and I'll get on top," it squawked with a deep masculine voice. "All right," yelled the man, "how do you explain that then?" "It's not what you think," said the wife again. "There was a lamp in the living room that didn't work, so I called over a couple of electricians to fix it. When they got here, they discovered that the ladder they had brought was broken, so they decided that one should sit on the other one's shoulders to reach the lamp." The man nodded, with doubt in his face. The parrot did, however, not stop chattering. This sausage is so juicy and delicious," it squawked with the same female voice as before. "No, it's not what you think," said the wife with panic in her voice. "I didn't have the urge to cook dinner for myself one evening, so I decided to order a pizza with extra sausage. I guess the parrot learned to say that when I took a bite of the pizza and—" "You aren't fooling anybody," the man interrupted with. "I'm calling a divorce lawyer." While the man went over to the telephone, his wife grabbed the parrot and said with grief in her voice, "How could you do this to me, you stupid bird?" To which the parrot replied, "Maybe that will teach you to pay for other people's services with actual money." "Teacher, why?" "Little Johnny, I had to take one of our cows to the bull." "Teacher, couldn't your father have done that?" "Little Johnny, yes, madam, but the bull does it better." Two married buddies are out drinking one night when one turns to the other and says, "You know, I don't know what else to do. Whenever I go home after we've been out drinking, I turn the headlights off before I get to the driveway. I shut off the engine and coast into the garage. I take my shoes off before I go into the house, I sneak up the stairs, I get undressed in the bathroom. I ease into bed and my wife still wakes up and yells at me for staying out so late." His buddy looks at him and says, "Well, you're obviously taking the wrong approach." He continues, "I screech into the driveway, slam the door, storm up the steps, throw my shoes into the closet, jump into bed, rub my hands on my wife's ass and say, 'How about a blowjob?' And she's always..." The Lone Ranger and Tonto are riding through the desert when they stop to take a break. The Lone Ranger has to take a whiz, so he whips it out and starts pissing on a cactus. Suddenly, a rattlesnake jumps out and bites him on the dick. The Lone Ranger yells to Tonto, "Hurry! Go to that nearby town, find the doctor, and tell him I have been bit by a rattler." Tonto gallops to the town, finds the doctor, and tells him his friend has been bit by a rattlesnake. The doctor says, "You must use your mouth to suck the venom out of the bite area." Tonto says, "I don't know if I can do that." The doctor says, "You must, or your friend is going to die." Tonto gallops back to the Lone Ranger. The Lone Ranger asks, "So what did the doctor say?" Tonto replies, "Well, Kemisabi, he said you are going to die." Three writers, Al, Ben, and Carl, who were attending a writing convention, booked a 3-bedroom suite on the 75th floor of a hotel. When they arrived back at the hotel from the convention, the receptionist told them, "I'm terribly sorry, but all the elevators are broken. In the meantime, you will have to take the stairs." Now, Al was a writer of funny stories, Ben was a writer of scary stories, and Carl was a writer of sad stories. The three of them agreed that, to make it less boring, Al would tell the other two his funniest stories while they climbed from floors 1 to 25, Ben would tell his scariest stories from floors 26 to 50, and Carl would tell his saddest stories from floors 51 to 75. They started to climb the stairs, and Al started to tell funny stories. By the time they reached the 25th floor, Ben and Carl were laughing hysterically. Then Ben started to tell scary stories. By the time they reached the 50th floor, Al and Carl were hugging each other in fear. Then Carl started to tell sad stories. "I'll tell my saddest story of all first," he said. "There once was a man named Carl who left the hotel room key in the car. His son says, 'Me and your mother are getting divorced. 20 years of this has gotten too much. Tell your sister.' So the son calls his sister and says, 'Mom and Dad are getting divorced.' And his sister says, 'They're not if I have anything to say about it.' And she calls her dad and screams into the phone, 'I'm taking my brother to your house and stopping you from doing this,' and hangs up. And the father turns toward the mother and says, 'Well, I got over for Thanksgiving. What are we going to do for Christmas?'" Near Copacabana Beach, in Brazil, a nerd-like man wearing social clothes and a tech-like bracelet pops up in a flash in the middle of some alleys, luckily not being seen by anyone. "By the store's names and ads, seems like I got sent to some South American country. The geographical coordinates need more calibration." He look around for people he could ask the current date. Some avoid him thinking he's crazy or a scammer. In the fourth successful contact, he managed to find someone that at least can understand what he says. "Hello, could you please tell me the current month, day, and year?" "K? Ah, okay, MES, Tia Iano." Being cautious, the Brazilian take only 1/3 of his Android off his pocket, just enough to see the date and then put it back. He takes a moment to convert it in his mind before answering, and the time traveler gets apprehensive. "It's 02/05 of 2023. Shit! It should be May, not February. That's my last chance." He then presses some buttons on his bracelet while mumbling technical stuff and simply disappears, making the Brazilian really confused. In August, the same day, a mysterious man without a parachute fell from the sky and died in the middle of some crowded area in Akola, India. Putin is still alive. A truck driver rolls over into a field with a truckload of bunny rabbits. The police pull up to the scene, the truck on its side, and about 500 rabbits scampering all over, laughing so hard he can hardly stand up. The police officer walks up and says to the truck driver, "Look at this mess, look at all these rabbits hopping around. What do you think is so funny?" The trucker looks at the officer and says, "Look at all those rabbits, they are hopping here and running there. They don't know where they are going, and I have the directions right here in my pocket." Trump finally gets his parade. One of Trump's aides says to him, "Sir, I had a dream you got your parade." It was miles and miles long, winding through Washington, D.C. Joyful Americans lined the route, literally in the millions. People were laughing, cheering, playing in the street. "You were riding in the most beautiful carriage." Trump asks, "Was I happy?" The aide answers, "I don't know, sir. The casket was closed." The city health inspector walks into a new restaurant unannounced and takes a seat where he can see the kitchen, and while he goes back for a pizza. The chef appears and the health inspector nearly chokes when he sees that he is not wearing a shirt. As if the health inspector didn't already have enough fuel for his citation writing pen, the chef proceeded to grab a lump of pizza dough and press it out flat on his bare chest. Appalled, the health inspector had barely finished up when an order came back for a hamburger. The cook proceeded to grab a handful of ground meat and pressed it into a perfect patty in his armpit. Shocked and bewildered, the health inspector called for the manager and explained the gravity of the deplorable conditions he had seen. "That's nothing," replied the manager. "You should come back at 5 in the morning when he makes the donuts."